Anthony's father had a huge impact on how I think and what I believe and what standing up means. You should Google him. And I'll argue, and I don't know, because I don't know, I know a fraction, but of all the, and this doesn't mean to undermine anybody else, but what he's done for the Native people of the United States is just phenomenal. And I could go on and on about his story, but I won't. But you know, do your homework. You want to see legacy of leadership? Go search Byron Malott. And I just want to follow up with Anthony about. We got the other ones too, though. You got to connect them somehow. The reason why I said don't cut down a tree is because I couldn't do it. It was another dream. It was the Department of Interior gave funding through the Bishop Museum, which is called the Native Hawaiian Culture and Arts Program, and they brought together a powerful board of Native Hawaiians. Herb was on it. My dad was on it. Taume Kō'olukukui Sr. The list goes on and on. My father was on that, and it was Herb that drove. Beautiful. Hang on. You don't need the other. That's that mine? Can you get it out?
I hope so.
The laptop fell down there. Oh, that's yours. John Dominus Holt was on this board. Senior, and the vision was that the Native Arts Culture and Art Program knew that Hōkūleʻa was made mostly out of non-native materials. So they were trying to create a single project that would unify primarily the elders in Hawaii to come together and build something that would touch each facet of life in Hawaiian culture, and they felt it was to build a voyaging canoe out of our forests. And so, what is that? Okay, this is, you know what, it's not going to work. This is the end, yeah? She has the beginning. Okay. You know what, it's all good. We'll start with here, but so they asked the voyaging side to build a canoe. They named it Hawaii Loa. And the first task was to search for trees big enough in our native forest. And you know, if we were here 2,000 years and do the math, if canoes were needed for survival, and you made 50 a year, do the math, that's about 100,000 canoes. Well, we searched for 9 months and into the best of our forests. We found trees big enough, but they were so full of rot that you could stick a machete, like paper mache, right through them. They're big enough in the old growth forest. And we searched 9 months, and it was painful to come to the fact that, I'm not saying society's lying at you, but they're not telling you at how bad our forests are in Hawaii. Whether it's 90% being cut down for somebody else's values, whether it's the introduction of so many alien species of plants and animals that are destroying the forest quietly because we're not being taught. And we searched hard, and people were exhausted, and we're all volunteers. And the board said, "Hey, you already talked to Byron Malott. He's got the trees for you. You know, why don't you go get them? Continue the project. That's what's important. Move the project." And I said, "Hey, give us one more weekend." Everybody was so tired. It was just me and a guy by the name of Taupu. Went to the Kilauea Forest Reserve on the eastern slopes of Mauna Loa. And we went up in the forest and only got 2 of us Talbot, you go south, I'll go north. And I'll meet you at the fence line. 2 days we searched, and it was our last day. And when we came out of the forest, we didn't even look at each other because we knew the answer. And you got to walk down this path between the fence line that blocked the cattle from the forest. And there was another fence line you had to hit. You had to go out to get out onto the road and come down the mountain. And we went down, and the forest is on our left, and kept walking, hit the fence line. And me and Taba, we never said a word. You're depressed. You failed. You didn't get the trees to build your canoe out of your forest. You failed. Hit the fence line, turned out, and I just felt this like pain on my left shoulder behind my back. And it was when you turn your back on the forest. But there's a solution. Go get somebody else's trees. So I go to the board meeting, and they say, hey, you got to go to Alaska and get their trees. They've been searching for months. Ernie Hillman did an amazing job to find trees that they didn't even know existed. So I fly to Alaska for my first time in my life. I'm kind of quiet, really intimidated, and I land in Ketchikan. And I was guided to some small motel, and Ernie Hillman, the quiet, intense land manager, came to my room and said, we're going to catch a helicopter tomorrow. We're going to go west. Jumped on a helicopter. We flew to an island called Shelikof on the boundary of the Tlingit and the Haida. They wanted to find a tree that represented both those great tribal groups. So it was inclusive. And when we was coming up, we're banking down, and there was a bear. I don't like bears. A big one was swimming across the water, and I'm just scared of them. Not that they don't like them. They're beautiful. They're powerful. But then you saw the eagles for the first time. You saw the bear for the first time. Then we land on this beach. Just nobody lives there. It's completely isolated. Old growth trees. We hike up the mountain, and then these trees are standing 220 feet tall. Ernie Hillman was so quiet but proud that he found the trees that Byron tasked him with. And then he demonstrated the tree. Guaranteed it's big enough, tall enough, but our question was the girth. Can we build a tree big enough to carry the weight we need to go to Tahiti? And he took a tape measure around, and it was way more big enough than we needed. And then he comes right up to me and goes, shall we cut it down? I agree. There's magic in the forest because there's spirit in the forest. It's powerful. So the land manager asked me again, shall we cut it down? And I told him, no. That quiet land manager got way more quiet. I didn't know why the answer was right. I didn't know why, but the answer was right. Don't cut it down. We fly back to Ketchikan. That flight was really quiet. And then I went home. And I went home into the board meeting, and the board was pretty pissed off at me. And they want to move and advance the project forward. Move the project. Right or wrong. So they go, why did you stop the project? How come you didn't cut down the trees? I said, I don't know. And that was not a good answer, and they're getting more mad at me. And they're saying, well, what are we going to do? I said, I don't know. And they said, are you going to stop the project? I said, I'm not stopping the project. I'm not cutting these trees. And if you want these trees, you got to go get somebody else. And John Dominus Holt, the elder, he takes his big hand and puts it on the table. He goes, this meeting is pow. It's over. I know, I get in the car, come to my house, we're going to eat lunch. So I go to his house, and he goes, boy, tell me your dreams. You know, what's troubling you? I said, you know, I'm in these people's strangers' forest. They're strangers. It's powerful because it isn't cut down. It's powerful because it's natural. It's powerful because it's not just condemned by the handprint and the footprint of human beings. And I was thinking, how in the world can I go and take somebody else's trees and be angry at the ones that took it from us? Because I'm doing the same thing. And John goes, how can I possibly deal with that hypocrisy of knowing that there was a whole bunch of strangers that came into our forest and took everything and are here no longer because there's not enough trees anymore? How can I go into somebody else's forest and do the same thing? He said, boy, you go home, you go to sleep, and you wake up, I want to have lunch with you again. And so I did, and he goes, so what's the solution? To take 2 trees from Alaska, we need to plant 10,000 in Hawaii. That's the tree planting ceremony that took place. It was a beginning. And forest says it's not going to work because all you're going to get what they call silver forest or whatever. I don't know what it's called, but not tree. And that's not true. Neil's correct. It's not just the forest is green and healthy. The birds are back. You know, and all you had to do was fence it and Mālama it. And so the answer to the solution was to, yes, take the trees. And Judson Brown basically said when he was up in the Hawaiian forest, he said, you know, thank you that these are my teachers, and they're gone. And a lot of times I find the road lonely because when I turn around, they're not there. That's why you need Sylvia and others, the great navigators, help you when you're on your knees because you lost faith or you doubt. And Judson Brown just said, when you go in this canoe, whenever the north wind blows, turn to it, because that's us, with you the whole way. And he said, don't thank us for the trees. We only gave you wood. What you gave us was dreams. But what Anthony is that Byron, my best friend, would pass away at a time when it was during COVID, not of COVID, but, and I couldn't get to him. So I just wanted to show you some slides about Genesis and Moananuia. Okay, I'm going to go through it really quick, but I want to get to Byron. And I don't know if it's all going to work, but I'm going to give it a shot. William Anders, right? William Anders. I've been bugging him, but he never responds to me, only to you, Sylvia. The Apollo 8 astronaut that, well, I heard the story. When they came around, they weren't even expecting this, right? They came around the gravity of the moon, and bam, there's the island Earth. And so him and Jim Lovell were fighting over the camera. That's what I heard. And William Anders wins and takes the photograph, Earthrise, which would drive. 1950s, we start really messing up industrialization. We're starting to get a feeling of climate change, right? But it's 1968. And so, you know, Silent Spring, some of the classic books are on the shelves as a memory to the giants who understood that we're messing with the earth. But we weren't listening, right? So William Anders takes this photograph of the island and changed everything in the perspective because it is an island. And that it was, many argue, was the single most event, a single person in a single moment would change the world. And they would say this is the first time that we would agree that this was when the global environmental movement started. And so this also inspired, that's why teachers come in many forms. Inspiration is the most powerful. And inspired this guy, my other best friend, Lieutenant Colonel Lacey Veach, Kekioko Aina, Ku'aina from this land, born and raised here, second astronaut into space. He was the lead pilot of the Thunderbirds, elite best pilots in the world. His resume is really long. He's kind of crazy. And he flew the shuttle program. How do you go backwards? Let's go forward. He loved this canoe. He loved this canoe. There's a lot of stories, but I'm not going to go into them. But he loved Hōkūle'a as a form of the power of exploration. And then he's up in Colombia, and he tells, hey, Naino, I got a present from you. It was this. He was the global searcher of life systems. He was. And this is a cockpit window. If you look at the bottom of the window, you see, island of Hawaii, there's a tiny, tiny red dot. That's upper part, that's Kianakakoi. That's where the adze quarry was, where 35,000 years ago, magma hit the glaciers when it was much colder and made the finest stone next to probably the greenstone in New Zealand to build voyaging canoes. This adze that he floats in the windows from his grandfather that came from Kianakakoi. And he goes, yeah, I got a gift from you because Lacey was looking for the equation to restore a hurt earth. And he's going, yeah, here's the answer. He goes, you see the stone that's in there that he smuggled on board, you don't take sharp, heavy object in zero gravity. And said, that represents the genius of our ancestors. The lessons that they had to survive over thousands of years. We're children compared to the Kalinka of 14,000. And then he said, you see the edge of the earth, and that window was representing the best of technology that you combine. And then he said, that island there, that's my home. And he loved Hawaii. And then he said, the answer is very simple. You just combine culture, traditions, ancestry with science and technology. But there was a question he raised. What navigates the technology? He said, good human values. So he had it all figured out. No, he didn't. And we would meet once a year or whenever we needed to. We'd rent a car at a Hilo illegally, and then we would drive it up to the north slope of Mauna Loa, and we would go on top of Lava Rock, and we would spend the night, one night, and just 7,000 feet. Lava absorbs all the sunlight, all starlight, brings them clear and close. It's the best place to start to imagine change. Imagine new ideas. I mean, he always was a proponent of, we gotta change education. We have to have it so that our children are being taught what it is necessary to fix the world. And so we'd be up there and we'd spend the night, and invariably it would come to this, back to the island. And then he would talk about the problems. And he's like the most optimistic person, but when he couldn't have the solution, he'd get so angry, I'd physically have to hold him and calm him down on the lava rock because of what we were doing to the earth. And he did tell me, the reason why I go into space is so I can get far enough away to turn around and see the whole island. And the reason why I need to see the whole island, Sylvia, is I need to see the system. How does that system work of life, the system of life on the earth? How does it work? Because if we don't understand that, we can't protect it. And so off he goes. And then on his next flight, it was with Bill Shepard, who was who was the commander on the International Space Station when it became operational in 2000. They were partners, mission specialists, and Lacey was stuck on the wall with Velcro, with the goggles on, sleeping. They sleep in watches, and you get a sunrise in the shuttle dawn every 90 minutes. And so Bill Shepard looked at the initial navigation system saying, wow, the sunlight dawn is going to come up with Hawaii in it. So he breaks the rules. He scrapes Lacey off the wall, floats him to the window, takes Lacey's mask off, the goggles off, and Lacey never told me the story. Bill did. He said, Lacey, without any anger, very quietly goes, that's it. That's it. It's here. Hawaii has everything. If you want to be energy, fossil fuel independent, freaking no-brainer. We can do that. We can do it. He said, you know, food sovereignty, think about the Native Hawaiians and how much food they produced, up to 1 million people, without Costco. And then he'd go on to all the things that we say that we can't do in the modern society. Hawaii can, if it chooses. But Lacey in the end said, the thing that's most important about Hawaii is its culture is still kind. Think about that. And he was the one that, boy, he pressed me, man. He said, you got to go, Nainoa. You can't protect what you don't understand. You won't if you don't care. The big issue before us as humanity is not about lack of science. It's lack of values. And then he said, you can't do it by yourself. Take Hōkūle'a around the world. Bam, a seed is planted. An idea is planted. He was very sick with lymphomelanoma last week in September 1995. His wife Alice calls me and says, you got to come to Houston today. I fly up, go into his house in Houston, 100 strangers in there. I don't know who they are. The room was dimly lit like this room. Never forget that color. And can't find Lacey. I asked Alice, where is he? He's in the bedroom waiting for you. So I go in the bedroom, and there he is, filled with fluid, can't walk, on a wheelchair. The Star Man. And he's very optimistic, he's going to get through this. Don't worry, Nainoa, I'm going to be fine. And but make me 3 promises. And one was, you promise me you sail Hōkūle'a around the world. It's 1995, guys. And then he said, you promised me. I said, okay. And then he said, pay attention to the new language. Climate change. Sustainability, hypoxia, dead zones. A long menu of stuff that he knew that we don't know. He said, pay attention to that language. It's going to drive everything. And he said, because those things are changing us, we have altered the earth, and now it's changing us, and we don't know what to do. 95. And then and then reason why this is important for this, he said, his third promise said, you go build a school, Thomas, tapu out there. You go build a school for the earth. He died 6 days later. Starman's gone. 13 years, we would meet once a year, voyaging family leadership somewhere in the state, put the agenda together for that particular year. Every year we'd be so excited about the conversations of the worldwide voyage, and how powerful it is and how excited we are to go touch the earth, have it touch us. Can't protect what you don't understand. Believe in something. And then we would have the same conversation go to, what about the hurricane? Or the pirate? What about the mosquito? What about disease? What about human violence? Are you ready? Are you prepared? Every year, we would start off with optimism. When the risk hit us, we'd all vote no. And then it was 2008, April 1st, where Lacey was so correct that the language that he wanted us to pay attention to was screaming at us. When are we gonna listen to the earth? And everybody knew that we were at a threshold of courage and values. We knew that we had to go. But the question that was before us, that put on the table on that meeting in 2008 was, what's more dangerous? The mosquito, the pirate, the hurricane, disease, or being knowledgeable and you stay tied to the dock and do nothing? Remember when you go to see your children breathing at night while they're sleeping comfortably? For me, those are moments of promises. So all of us knew we had to go. So we voted 4 times. We were unanimous 4 times. If we don't come together, we're going to fail. And 6 years of training. That's Hōkūle'a being totally refitted by Bruce Blankenfeld. We train young and hard, high bar. Built Hōkūle'a to be our science boat, our medical boat, our education boat, our communications platform, and a medical platform. We gathered people around the world, 400 crew members, sailed 37,000 miles in 41 months. And we would leave, navigate half the time with instruments, half the time from the teaching of our teachers. And we would leave. The worldwide voyage, I'm not going to go into it. It would take too much time. Oh, I guess I am. Can we fast forward this to Chris's stuff? Moananuia, maybe to Moananuia, where the island is. No, it's that way. There. Yeah. Okay, quick. Moananuia. It comes from what we learned in the Worldwide Voyage. Worldwide Voyage was a voyage of exploration. Moananuia is a voyage of kuleana. It's a voyage of responsibility. What do you do when you're informed? Stay tied to the dock? Moananuia, the Pacific Ocean, I asked Kamehameha students in Chris Blake's class to do a mathematical problem. Find the center between China and Chile and Antarctica and Alaska. Where's the center of the Pacific? And then go vertical. How high you got to go till you see all the edges of the Pacific Ocean? And they go back, they're so smart. And they come back, they go, 22,000. I tell them, I go 40,000 feet in an aircraft. All I see is water. And I don't see any shorelines. They go, Mr. Thompson, it's not 42,000 feet, it's 42,000 miles. You got to go up. You're like a quarter of the way to the moon before you can see the edges of that. It's the biggest ocean on the earth. It's over half the salt water on the planet. It's 1/3 the surface of the earth. And you can take all terrestrial land, all land, and put it into Moananuia. I argue it's the most important place on the earth. In the 21st century of storms. What controls climate? Bingo. What creates life? Bingo. What creates the next 3 out of 4 breaths you're going to take? Oxygen. Bingo. This is the most wealthiest place on the earth. Because without it, we don't survive. Make sense? So that's kind of the genesis of this voyage. And what I'm saying is we have a sail plan. that is just based on keeping us safe, out of hurricane seasons, out of other issues. So the sail plan that I put up here, I don't know how you do that, but it's not coming up. I just want to go forward one. Oh, yeah, there you go. Then I got to go to Alaska. It's just regional, okay? So we went to the Pacific Northwest. We went to Alaska to start us as family of the North. FESTPAC is awesome, but I don't think we recognize this is way bigger than FESTPAC. Everything's bigger than FESTPAC, even this room. There's guys from Alaska here. There's guys from China here. There's guys from Virginia here in this room. So FESTPAC has been gravity much larger than 28 countries, and that's terribly, terribly important. So we start, and we did all the way to San Diego in 23, and we're going to spend 24 with our children again, going statewide. In 25, we take off. The regions, the first, I don't have the maps, but the first region is going to be our homeland, Polynesia. 2025 is going to be from 11 island groups from Kaikinui, Tahiti to Aotearoa, New Zealand by December. 26 will be Australia, Melanesia, and into the powerful schools in Micronesia, Samoa, and many of the other schools. And then 26, we go up into the big economies from Palau to Philippines and to Taiwan, to China, to Okinawa, to Japan, South Korea, Hokkaido. The original dream, honestly, and we had like 50-50 chance because we had friends who knew President Putin, and that we were going to try, we talked with Anthony and them about canoe journeys between family that's got split between U.S. and Russia. These 14,000-year families are cut right in half. And you need a passport to go across it. And so that kind of went out the window, so we don't know what the future is going to be, but that was the vision, a whole trip from Alaska. Because Alaska to Russia, if you count hopping between the islands, is shorter than the Molokai Channel. It's 28 miles. And so, anyway, that's the sail plan. I don't know how to make this thing work. Yeah, I'm going backwards, sorry. Chris, you got to help me get me to you now. Where are you? Yeah, this is our first stop on Moananuia, Yakutat, Alaska, native village of Byron. Because there's no other place to start this than next to our great hero, mentor, teacher, fierce warrior for justice. This is his native land. That is Hubbard Glacier. My understanding, it's the only 2 glaciers that are advancing into the ocean out of the thousands of glaciers on the earth. The rest are either stable or retreating. Hubbard Glacier is 2/3 of the way to the North Pole. And then, yeah, it's kind of scary, but awesome. Yeah, I went to Tahiti, break the rules. Lehua, navigating captain, was a young crew. It really angered me because they broke the record in terms of time, and they're worst thing, they were so humble, even though they broke the record. This is making me more mad. I want you to see the face of the hero. You know why? Heroes should never be forgotten. The great danger of our time is forgetting. So when you start to forget your heroes, you forget to know where you come from. Therefore, you forget to know who you are. And we all have them. I always take time to make sure the heroes are in the room. Otherwise, the presentation has no value. That's Byron Malad. Best friend. Chris Duff. Chris. Chris Barton's stuff. I want to express before a couple of things. Thank you, every one of you, for coming, because we're going to need every one of you. Thank you for the stories. Thank you for those who, the panelists. Thank you, Cesario, to bring your father here. Thank you. I've learned so much in the last couple of days that I need time to think and walk and figure out where to go. So I don't really know exactly what the sail plan is, because I shouldn't know what the sail plan is. We have a route, but you guys decide the sail plan by the places and the islands and the places we should go. And that this route is far. It's 57,000 miles, 2 canoes. Multiply it by 2. It's a long voyage. It's 450 days on the ocean. It's 950 days in foreign soil. I'm scared. Climate change, viruses. We have a lot to think about how to do this. And we have to do it with you. And so if this is going to be worth it, you have to fill in the sail plan. Who do we go to? Where do we go to? Why? And so what I did learn here was Coro Felipe. I listened to the translation, and he said something very, very significant. Don't forget where we come from. And he spoke in the translation of the women was taken away, the men were murdered, the rest were put into slavery, and that there's a moment in time that they were down to a number smaller than this room, in yesterday's room. 111 people. And then he says, this is not to lament on what happened to us. It's for us never to forget where we come from. And then bam, Rapa Nui. Heroes to the earth. Leaders of the earth. Building the best and the biggest marine protected area, not for them, for humanity and the future of the planet. Think about that jump, 111 of that history to now world leaders. And the leadership is about restoring the thing that's most important, that's the oceans. And then you think about the conversation in this room with Papa Hanau Moku Akea. Put those two things together. They count, they matter. And they're real stories. There's real stories for those children sitting over there. And this room, the gathering of ideas and possibilities and what ifs. Imagine there was someone from Satawal, a leader, and stood up and said, Rapa Nui, help us. Rapa Nui, help us know what you did so we can protect our island. And that's Thomas Rafferty. You don't have to imagine it happened. And I understand there was a meeting today about these two island groups that come together. What if Tuvalu calls you, Satawal, and says, Satawal, help us? What if that webs out? This is just numbers of kind of crazy stuff. We're fooling around at 1 o'clock in the morning trying to figure this out, but the numbers of size and, to make it quick, how do you do this? No, go back to the beginning. So I asked Chris, the really smart guy. I can't read that, but whatever it is. So he drew lines around FESTPAC. He drew lines around FESTPAC and said, wow, this is a big country. It's 22 times bigger than continental United States. And then he went and he just pressed the button. Then he stuck Australia, China, Canada, Russia, US, France, somebody else, I can't see yellow colored one, but they fit in the country. And then we took a look at, what's the next one? Yeah, then we wanted to fool around with Manhattan. Manhattan's that little box, right? About the size of Honolulu. And to put it into the other big map, you couldn't see it, it's too small. And yet on a busy day, there's more people in Manhattan than into our country. The problem we have is this issue of distribution of population. And yeah. So in our country, you take, everybody lives there. We have, if it was even, we'd all have 1 square mile of oceans. In Manhattan, we put in 17,480 people in the square mile. Just think about it, ideas. And then we fooled around with this because of Rapa Nui. And because Thomas asked to help Satawal. And then we have Frida, who starts to make us think about corridors. So we took this map, and thank you, Chris, to look at, that would be Rapa Nui on the eastern side of the Pacific, as you know. There's a 450-mile corridor that's high seas. But when you get to the Pitcairn Islands and so forth, island called Ducey and Henderson, you can go all the way to Taiwan in a marine protected area, if it was in the exclusive economic zones. What if Thomas did go to Tuvalu and help them? What if Tuvalu went to and started to move this chain of possibilities? The real issue is the high seas, no doubt about it. We've got to get there. But I'm just saying, what if? Because I don't think we need to ever ask the question, are Pacific Islanders unified? FESTPAC proved that. We don't need to ask that question anymore. The question is, what are we going to unify around? And all I'm arguing with you folks, that Moananuia Kea is just one tiny little canoe that's going to pull a thread around the Pacific, build a lei with your flowers, with your love in your heart. And I hope you guys can come to my mom and dad's house. That is the convention center of voyaging leadership. That is the convention center of the genesis of the cultural impact in Papahanaumoka. That is the genesis of parents who always raised everyone with values. So if you come just to be there, my mom and dad would be really happy. Mahalo.